Prologue. An apocalyptic budget cut. You are listening at famvetv.info. Prologue. Somewhere in an office there sat a bunch of workers getting ready for a long day of work. Everything comes to an end, huh? Man, I will really miss that small project of mine. One of them said. Another one replied, at least it won't completely end, just drastically change. We were really lucky to get at least this much. Yeah, and we will be able to work together for another few months to make the transition smooth. The first replied. No use mopping about the past, let's get to work. A stern voice said that at a completely different place a normal day had just begun. Wind softly blew, a testament to the everlasting change and the unpredictability of the world. From the smallest parts to the biggest organisms, nothing is entirely predictable or still. Not even our own minds. And all our feeble minds can do to describe that very world is pressing definitions and words onto things and find rules that seem to apply on what we can see. Always living with the probability that we might be wrong. We willingly take that risk and try to narrow down the rates of failure. But what could happen when the probabilities are against us? This story is one of low probabilities. And our protagonist is of a rather particular sort. His name is Alec Mercer. He isn't determined or anxious about his life, he has no goals that he must achieve, nor is he completely without guidance. At his best you could describe him as an average youth, if not a bit lonesome and reserved. That in itself wouldn't earn him the description particular, but it wasn't his personality that set him apart from most people around him, it was his habit or rather his nature to always carry a rhythm or song in his mind. Sometimes he would breath in it, but more often he would silently hum it. Those that knew him would often call him the hummer. Not once did he lose the rhythm in his mind on his own volition. So he was rather shocked and confused when it suddenly stopped. In fact, he would have fallen to the ground from shock if he could. He was mid-step on his way to school when this happened. And not only he stopped, even the car that was just driving past him had. If he had been able to move his eyes he would have seen a lot more things frozen mid-motion. Nothing, absolutely nothing seemed to move at this moment, only the thoughts rushed through the skulls of no sound could and should be able to be heard in this state, and yet there was the distinct sound of a microphone being turned on. It shrilly screeched and then a static noise could be heard. Then the smoky voice of an old woman boomed through everyone's mind. Ahem. Dear citizens of. Ah yes, Earth. Because of cutbacks in the administration for the 30 minor worlds in this branch of multiverses, we are forced to merge the administrations together. We are sorry for the upcoming inconveniences. Knowledge about the upcoming changes will be directly transmitted. We will try our hardest for a smooth transition. Thank you for listening. When Alec woke up he wasn't sure whether his headache stemmed from the fact that he had fallen face first on the street, or because of the sheer amount of knowledge flooding his mind. As he stood up and looked around he witnessed a scene of pure chaos. Crashed cars were all around him as their drivers had fainted. Panicking people were everywhere, and only the calming slow music he had chosen for today suppressed the blossoming panic in Alec's mind. By focusing on this music he completely regained his calm and made a fascinating discovery. The music was much clearer than normal. He could even distinguish between the instruments, something that had completely eluded him up till now. Suddenly it was crystal clear to him that this was his ability, he could store, save and play music in his mind. Ability. He thought. All subjects that will be relocated gain an ability. Please exercise caution with those newfound powers. The feedback is stronger, the stronger the ability is, and control isn't given together with the ability. It has to be acquired through practice. For further information please think status. As if on cue a screaming, burning and fireball-flinging woman ran around a corner of the crossroad in front of Alec. Panic and pain were apparent on her burning face. She ran 30 additional meters and then collapsed directly in front of him. With shaking hands Alec knelt down and tried to find a pulse. He found none. As tears welled up in his eyes, he noticed that the woman wasn't burned in the slightest. In fact, her corpse was surprisingly cold rather than hot. Slowly and with a pale face he stood up. As he inspected his surroundings, he noticed that most people still were in a state of panic. It wasn't the first time that Alec encountered a panicking mob. Once he had been swept up by a panicking stream of people that tried to leave a burning exhibition hall. A broken rib had taught him all he ever needed to know about mob mentality in danger situations. As such, he immediately turned around, and instead of walking to school he walked home. The knowledge he had gained stated that after a 24-hour preparation period they would be transported to a new world, and everybody could only take 20 kilograms of baggage with them. And Alec wanted to make them count. His parents weren't home. Normally they left the house 1 hour before he does. Alec hoped that they weren't driving at the moment of the message. Hurriedly he began to gather things he thought he might need. A blanket, 2 sets of clothes, a tent canvas with some additional strings and some pegs, also some food and of course a backpack. Finally he also chose some kitchen knives and put them in the pack and attached the biggest at his belt. When he was finished he checked his clock. 20 hours till the relocation. Much slower and thoughtful he began to pack 2 additional packs for his parents. As he did, he discovered some more things that could be useful. A compass and a flint and steel. He found both amongst his father's old camping gear. While he silently debated with himself whether a compass would work in the new world, he heard the sound of a key entering a lock. His parents had returned. Hastily he ran to the front door. Quick! Help me carry her. His father, a tall man with brown eyes and hair, said with a tired voice. He was carrying Alec's mother, which had apparently fainted. Her round face was pale, her red, shoulder-long hair was disheveled and its tips were bloodied. Together they carried her to the couch and laid her down. What happened? Alec asked. We were in a car when it happened and had an accident. I was wounded. Impaled by a metal fragment. She saved me. I don't know how, but she did. Until then she is like this. He said with an increasingly teary voice. Alec quickly checks for any life signs. Hoping, pleading to all gods that may or may not be out there. She still breathes. Isn't cold and her pulse appears to be regular. I think she will survive the backlash of her ability. He said. What is yours, by the way? I am sturdy. I think without that I would have died instantly. No, I am sure of that. His father said. Oh right. I have something for the 2 of you. I will be right back. Alec said and went to get the packs. 5 minutes later the 2 of them were discussing the collection Alec had gathered. Overall a assortment, but we should pack some more food. And some weapons, of course. With those words Alec's father ran off to the garage. When he returned he carried 2 one-handed swords. As Alec gave his father a questioning look he quickly explained. I too was young once, you know. I used to do some fencing then and also got some more rustic weapons. Isn't it every man's dream to be the knight in shining armor? Come, they aren't ready yet, their edge is too big. We need to file them down. But not too sharp or they might break. For hours they filed away at the practice weapons until finally they held lethal weapons in their hands. Appalled, Alec noticed that they only had half an hour left. He quickly checked on his mother's condition and was relieved that her breath had gotten much stronger and steadier. 15 minutes before the relocation they tried to wake her and succeeded. Although she was still dizzy she was able to strap on her pack and stand together with them. Honestly, she was more clinging to her husband than standing. As they counted down the time, when their countdown reached 0 a bright light blinded them. Alec was still blinded, when he heard the voice again. No contact with another person. Initiating solo transfer. Age. 17, integration rating. Medium. Initiating special transfer. Adding the integrable title. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.